Okay, guys. Well, as promised, here I am. I thought I'd share a video with you this time round, as opposed to doing an article. I know it's a little bit easier for you guys to sit, just watch me for a good few minutes and take this in rather than sit and read an article. So I hope you're going to find this helpful. And as always, if you do, please share it with your friends, and let's try and see if we can help as many people as we can. Kind of get a better understanding of the best way to start off on fat loss. So the post that I put out was asking, and it was very well received, and a lot of people asked me to put the video out. So the topic was, how do you choose the right way to eat for fat loss? Do you start off counting calories? Do you follow low carbs, high carbs, carb cycling, intermittent fasting? The very popular nowadays, if it fits your macros, flexible dieting. Or do you go on the shelves and buy all the fatty diets? Well, let me first off tell you that the diets off the shelves don't work. In a nutshell, you lose a lot of weight, fine, you hit a plateau. They don't deal with any of the problems that you come across on the way. They are designed very much to help mainly very obese people lose a lot of scale weight, but unfortunately they don't do anything for body composition. And if you follow my page, if you follow my work, if you follow anything that I write about, you know that we're in the business of getting people lean but healthy, strong, so that they perform well and they're healthy at the end of the day. That's the main thing that we look for. And a healthy body is a body that will lose body fat, will remain lean, and remain very healthy. So I'm going to start off with just going through a couple of the areas. First off was if it fits your macros and flexible dieting. Now, those of you who know me know that I'm not a big fan of this, and I'll expand a little bit more into why. I think when people are starting off on fat loss, and this video's aimed more at you. We've got people that do comp prep, we've got people that are professional athletes, we've got people that are very lean, wanting to get extremely lean. But it's the people that get confused who are starting out. So if somebody gives you a diet plan which is flexible, which allows you a lot of opportunity to choose from loads and loads of different foods, there's more chance to go off the rails. If it fits your macros, basically people get confused and think that you can choose all sorts of foods and just mix and match, and at the end of the day you'll get lean. It doesn't happen like that. When you're starting off with fat loss, when you've got a lot of body fat to lose, there's more going on than just picking a load of macros and sticking to it. It may work when you're a little bit leaner, but certainly when you're starting off, it doesn't work. That's my opinion. 15 years of doing this, I've tried different methods. I've tried the flexible dieting with people who are very obese. I've tried even some of the intermittent fasting. I'm going to get onto that in a second. I don't rate it. There are people that do. There are people that will turn around to me with research and say it works this way, it works that way, and even people that they've worked with. In my opinion, it allows you at the beginning to be too flexible, and it doesn't take into consideration the fact that we have to improve blood sugar management, how well the cells function in the body, detoxification, and then to top that off, it doesn't deal with any intolerances that people have. And these are some of the big problems that we come up with at the beginning of starting out someone's fat loss journey. So to me, if it fits your macros and flexible dieting, for someone starting out, no. Intermittent fasting, again, this isn't going to take me very long to explain. Intermittent fasting to me is a big no-no. For religious reasons, I understand that some people do have to do this, and we work around that. We work with people doing Ramadan, and we work around that, but it's not 24/7 in terms of or throughout the year. So when it comes to intermittent fasting, what's my problem? If people train hard, when they train with us, they train very hard. You don't have any energy during the day. You're not going to perform well in the gym. You're not going to recover well from your training sessions. Intermittent fasting doesn't do any good for blood sugar management. It also places a lot of pressure on the adrenal glands. You're training throughout the day. You're living your day on not a lot of food, and then you're having to cram food in back later towards the end of the day. Yes, there are different ways of intermittent fasting. Days when you don't eat, 16-hour periods where you don't eat. But in my opinion, if you're going to train properly, if you're going to bodybuild, physique train, you're going to get very lean and you want to build some muscle, eat regular feedings, encourage protein synthesis, encourage blood sugar management, encourage enough nutrients into the body at regular feedings, and that won't come from intermittent fasting. So, three methods there that kind of are very, very popular, and my reason is why I wouldn't potentially use them with people. Now, when it comes to low carbs, high carbs, and carb cycling, yeah, I'm a big fan of using those. But again, it has its place. If it fits your macros, flexible dieting, intermittent fasting for a beginner, definitely not. Now, how I work, this is the bit that's going to help you the most, I think. Well, I'm sure. I nearly always, with somebody that's got a lot of body fat to lose, will start off with a period of low carb eating. For me, it's actually zero carb eating. I'll do 2 to 4 weeks, 2 to 6 weeks in some cases, of a 40-60 diet. So it's 40% protein, 60% fat. Lots and lots of vegetables, lots and lots of fiber-rich vegetables. I actually include quite a lot of nutrients to improve liver detoxification. I improve certain nutrients like alpha-lipoic acid to improve cell communication and insulin sensitivity, and help get the body primed in its best place, ready for the reintroduction of carbs later on. But if you've lived on a diet of very, very rich carbohydrates for a long period of time, starchy, sugary carbohydrates, you need to give your body a break. You need to encourage your body to start breaking down body fat, and by constantly having carbohydrates coming in the body, when your body's and your cells are very resistant to the carbohydrates coming in, you're going to find that you're not going to burn as much body fat. So a short period of time for me works very, very well on low carb, zero carb. But then to maximize performance and body fat and increasing muscle mass, I'm going to bring carbs in. Now, you may have read out how many fat loss coaches or experts, however you want to call them, are putting people on low carb or zero carb diets for a long period of time. I've seen a lot of issues with low carb for a long period of time in terms of adrenal health, in terms of results, in terms of muscle building. I want to encourage muscle building. I want to encourage hypertrophy, whether it's male or female, because it's going to increase metabolism, it's going to increase muscle shape and definition for people who want to look better. And I don't find that works with no carbs. Carbs in and around the workout is the way that I encourage muscle to be built, and it works very, very well. So after the initial 2 to 6 weeks, when I've checked body fat and I see body fat coming down nicely, I'm going to start to want to up the training a little bit more, and that's when I start to want to give a little bit more energy. So the first port of call for me is to switch the diet around to a 40-40-20. So we're favouring protein and fats 40%, and then 20% of the diet is carbohydrates. Now that 20% is placed around the workout window. Now, if somebody was relatively lean when they first come to see me, I might immediately start giving them carbohydrates during the workout to maximize energy during the workout. Maybe 25 to 50 grams of carbohydrates during the workout, depending on how they responded and how well their first 2 to 6 weeks has gone. In a lot of people's cases, I'll just put carbohydrates in as a recovery measure post-training. Again, I'll then measure body fat, and I'll see whether or not in a week's time the introduction of that 20% of carbohydrates around the workout window has had a positive impact in their results. If they've developed some more lean tissue, if they're finding that they've recovered better, and if I'm seeing them train harder. As soon as I add carbs back in, strength improves. If I see strength improve, if I see weights go up, the training log going up, which is a big part of the results that we achieve, I know that my client's improving. If you have a low-carb diet, I often see people not improving and not recovering. So I introduce the carbs. Now, if the carbs don't work well, it may mean that I have to go on back to a low-carb, zero-carb diet to push it out, to improve the body's ability or cells to recover. Because high-carbohydrate diets for a long time, the biggest problem that you'll find there is that the cell communication it is damaged. So via various different nutrients, you can improve that cell communication, which is it's another story. I can go into the supplementation of insulin sensitizing supplements another date. But you've got to have some kind of movement within your diet if it's not working. So you might add in the carbs. If they're not working, then you might pull them back. If you pull them back and then you notice that you have another couple of weeks and that person gets a little bit leaner, try introducing the carbs again around the workout window again. So that's my period of reintroduction. Now, some of you may be thinking that 40-60 is very, very strict. Now, let me think. Let me give you some advice here. You've had years and years and years of eating absolute rubbish foods. Rich carbohydrates, alcohol, you might call it good quality food when you go out, but it's not. It's loaded with sugar. It's caused your body to be in a very, very poor state when it comes to managing sugar. So, you've got to be strict in these first 2 to 6 weeks. There are no cheat meals. You don't deserve any cheat meals. Your body's got way too many carbohydrates stored in the body. It's got way too much fat, which ultimately will break down if you give it enough chance to be used as sugar in the body. You've got to be strict at the beginning. If your trainer gives you flexibility at the beginning and allows you a cheat meal every week and allows you to be flexible, I'm going to question whether they've actually been through this themselves. To me, fat loss, when you've had years and years of being overweight, this is your time to knuckle down and give your body an opportunity to heal and mend itself. So yes, you need to be strict, and you do need to be strict for that 2 to 6 weeks, and then when it comes to kind of the reintroduction of carbohydrates phase, that's when we're going to start to bring a little bit more of the sweet potato, the brown rice, the post-training or the intra-workout carbohydrate drinks, and that will kind of start to give you a little bit of the sugar back. But you've got to start your diet off straight. There's no flexibility in my opinion, and this can come further on down the line. So when you're heavily overweight, start off zero carb, be strict with yourself. As your body fat starts to come down and you notice your energy 6 weeks in, 4 weeks in, is starting to dip a little bit, then reintroduce carbohydrates. But that 20%, 15% around the workout window. And then from that point, if you're noticing how well you're doing, you might want to bring your carbohydrates up a little bit. So you might want to bring the fats down a little bit, introduce a little bit more carbs. Again, it's going to help you build more muscle, give you more energy. And then I would stick around that kind of 40, 35, 25, 40, 40, 20 diet for fat loss. Okay, that's where you're at. Now, you can be using variables such as interval training, steady state cardio at some points, introducing more volume in your training, and over a consistent period of time, you're going to lose more body fat. You might want to bring your calories down a little bit at some point if you start to understand how many calories you're having. But really, eating very, very clean, understanding a good balance and ratio of your foods and watching how your body responds is going to be the first step that you're going to take. Now, I want to come back and look at flexible dieting because once you've moved through the first 2 to 6 weeks, then you've done probably another 3 or 4 months and even longer, 6 months, some people a year of a 40-40-20 diet, and you're just manipulating how much food you're having versus the training volume you're doing, and you've done very well. Some people may be sitting around 10% body fat. Now, 8 to 10% body fat for a guy and 12 to 14% body fat for a woman is a perfect place where your body handles sugar a lot better. You may not be at the point where you want to do something like a photo shoot or a competition or do anything with your body to prove your hard work. So there's no reason to go to 654% body fat for a man or 987 for a woman. You might just be happy where you're at. Now, if you're going to finish training and you want a little bit more flexible and have what people would naturally call like a cheat meal or a more off the menu meal, so you might choose a pitta or that sort of stuff, or a chicken pitta, something that's off the normal menu, and you find that your body fat doesn't really change, you can be a little bit more flexible. So flexible dieting to me doesn't necessarily mean that you're flexible every single day. Flexible dieting could mean that there are certain parts of your week after training that you bring in an off-the-menu meal, off the normal chart meal. So flexible dieting, as you get very, very lean, can have its place at certain points. But then as soon as you start to get to the point where you want to get very, very lean, you have to go back to your clean foods, you have to go back to your strict dieting, you have to go back to the macronutrients and the unallowable food list. Because, if you're having too much variation in your foods, you don't know which foods may be causing any problems. And trust me when I tell you this, there are that many people who have detoxification issues, food intolerance issues, and their food intolerance issues are huge. So if you start to understand what your diet is and what type of foods you're having within your diet, rather than being too flexible and off chart, you get a better chance of knowing exactly what works for you. So, at the beginning, I said if it fits your macros and flexible dieting isn't the way to go. I'm talking right at the beginning. Now, if it fits your macros, for me, I'm not a big fan of. Flexible dieting could just mean twice a week where you're just having two kind of cheat meals after your heavy training sessions. Like if you're doing 2 leg sessions, I know when I'm not in a position of getting very, very lean, I might have a meal of my choice, providing the protein's within that. Now, this kind of crossover doesn't mean that 70-80% of your week's flexible dieting or 40 or 50% of your day's flexible dieting. It could just be 2 meals a week. But this is when you're leaner. So let me just recap a couple of things for you. If you're overweight and you've got a lot of body fat to lose, yes, you've got to be strict. You've got to take yourself right back to the basics and eat really clean food and remove intolerant foods. Often wheat, dairy, gluten, eggs in some cases, nuts for some people. You've got to give your body a chance to heal itself from the damage that you've caused over the years. And you've got to be straight. You then bring in the 40-60 diet. You see how long that works for. You then bring in a 40-40-20 diet and you work around carbs around the workout time. And then as you get very, very lean, you could afford to be a little bit more flexible. But then you have to keep measuring it. Okay, so I hope that's helped. I've gone on a little bit longer than I originally expected, but it's a subject which so many people get confused over, and I wanted to give you my thoughts. Please feel free to leave a comment at the bottom on anything else you'd like to see, if you'd like me to expand further on some of the supplements that I recommend, or even how I kind of calculate the 40-60 ratio at the beginning for people to ensure that what they lose is body fat, and it's not that it's muscle tissue, and you're not breaking down the body so that you don't have a nice physique at the end of the journey. As always, please like the post, share the post with your friends, and let me help you get the body that you've always wanted from your training and from your eating, and I'm very grateful for you taking the time to listen. Thanks.